And Mr. Goodell.
Mr. Speaker, would the sponsor yield?
Mr. Moyer, will you yield?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Let's speak up, gentlemen, so we can keep our body attention focused.
Thank you, Mr. Moyer. As I understand this bill, one of the primary purposes is to make tuition assistance available to, as you say, applicants without lawful immigration status. Is that correct?
Correct.
So these are applicants who are not lawfully in New York State?
Correct.
Are they then, under current federal law, subject to deportation?
Correct.
And they don't have like an F1 or an F visa, student visa, that would allow them to stay here while attending a New York college?
No. Some have applied for DACA, which is what the federal government did for the Deferred Action Program. We've seen the number of enrollments of DACA students come to fruition here. But a lot of these students have come to this country at no fault of their own, very young. Their parents brought them here from some as early as age 1 or 2 years old, where they know no other country.
While they're in the course of study.
I'm sorry?
While they're in this course of study, since they don't have legal status, are they, I think you may have answered this, they are subject to deportation?
They are, but if they would apply under the proposed legislation that we have here, if they apply for tuition assistance and get accepted, they would have to fill out a form that would put them on the pathway to citizenship in order to receive the TAP award.
Well, actually, it says they fill out the form that says they have or intend to in the future,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
So they don't actually have to apply, they just have to state an intent at some point in the future.
Their intent is to do that. Correct.
And am I correct that these children, their parents are also don't have legal immigrant status in New York State?
Correct.
And is there any requirement that the parents sign such an affidavit that they are applying for a pathway to citizenship?
No.
And so the parents then are subject to deportation?
Correct.
And am I correct that the amount of tuition assistance is based on the parent's income and the child's income?
Correct, yes.
So if you are afraid of reporting your income because you're concerned you might be deported and you don't report your income, then your child under this bill would get the maximum amount of financial assistance?
No.
How would this assistance be calculated?
So if they can't report their income, they won't receive TAP.
If they don't report their income?
If they cannot report or show their income, they will not be able to receive the TAP.
Well, don't we have kind of a dilemma there? Because if they report the income and they're here illegally, doesn't that subject them to deportation? Doesn't that bring their identity to the attention of the federal officials?
So HESC will be creating a new form that would make those determinations.
I'm sorry?
HESC would be coming up with a new form that would make those determinations.
But we don't have it currently.
No. But HESC will be the one that would look to do that.
Now
they are the experts at that.
Now you say in order to qualify, you have to have a high school diploma or GED. You have to attend a New York State school for at least 2 years.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
But you do not have to be a New York State resident. Am I correct? Not a lawful resident.
Right. Well, you can't because you can't technically prove you're a resident of the state.
So am I correct then that if I graduate from a New York high school and move to Pennsylvania with my parents, who are now Pennsylvania residents, I could still apply for and receive New York State-funded tuition assistance as long as I apply within 5 years after leaving New York State?
It's for anyone. So within 5 years, you have the opportunity to apply for TAP.
So as a result, we'll be providing New York State-funded tuition assistance programs for residents of Connecticut, Ohio, Massachusetts, Vermont, anywhere in New York State, in fact, anywhere in the nation, as long as they graduate within 5 years from a New York State high school.
This is the same restrictions that we have currently now for in-state tuition.
Well, I believe in order to qualify for in-state tuition, you have to be a legal resident, don't you?
Correct.
And
No,
this eliminates the legal
that's not
residency
correct.
requirement.
That's incorrect.
I'm sorry, what is incorrect?
That you don't have to be a legal resident in order to collect in-state tuition.
So you're saying under current law, you can be an illegal resident and still qualify?
Correct.
Then why are we doing this bill?
But that's been since this would actually open up the opportunity for them to receive tuition assistance. There's a difference between someone who is going for in-state tuition, which is actually what you would receive if you're a New York State resident. This would give them the opportunity to apply for tuition assistance that would help them go to college, which
Okay, I
most
think
people
I
can't
understand.
afford
So
at this point.
under the current law, you are not eligible for tuition assistance unless you're a New York State resident. But you can get the in-state tuition rate even though you're not a New York State resident?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And so this would open up then taxpayer-funded tuition assistance for out-of-state residents as long as they graduate from a New York high school within the last 5 years.
Correct.
And if we ever fund graduate education, if you graduated from a New York high school anytime within the last 10 years, you would then be eligible, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I appreciate that comment. Thank you very much, Mr. Moyer. On the bill.
Thank you.
On the bill, Mr. Goodell.
I think many of us here in this chamber struggle to make as many resources available as possible to residents in New York State that are going to high school. And as you know, our current budget has some increase in state funding, which is very important, and I'm sure we all support that. Yet at the same time, our schools are saying we need to do a lot more. And last year, we increased the funding available for some of our colleges, which was a great thing. This bill takes it a whole nother step and says that as long as you graduate within 5 years from a New York high school, it doesn't matter if you've lived the last 5 years in some other state or nation. You can still get tuition assistance. So just hypothetically, you could be here in New York State illegally, graduate from a New York State high school, move back to your home country of origin, apply for and receive New York State tuition assistance for New York State College. Or alternatively, you could be living and paying taxes in Connecticut, Ohio, New Jersey, or any other state in the nation for the last 5 years, and come back to New York State, and thanks to the generosity of the New York State taxpayers, you get tuition assistance. And the unfairness and the inequities between how we treat our own residents and everyone else is compounded when you realize that the amount of the tuition assistance is based on the reported income of your parents. So if your parents who are here illegally didn't report income or report very little income, congratulations. You get the maximum tuition at the expense of the taxpayers. I would suggest before we start using New York State tax funds to provide tuition assistance for residents who don't live in New York State, who live outside of New York State, or aren't here lawfully, we might take those funds and use them to reduce the cost of a college education to our local residents, our in-state residents. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Goodell.